what are, and if nothing else, maybe what are the commonalities that you're seeing with those that cause them to get ensnared or trapped, and what are they doing obviously there's a long form method to this that you do as a part of your curriculum and things like that, but what are some of the simple things that they're doing try and to not try but actually see victory over hitting that button over and over and over again and trying to seek that high.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And yeah, just to piggyback off of kind of what you're saying there, we haven't had him on the show yet. I'm in talks with his people, but the head of the research lab at Stanford has a great way of defining addiction, and it's the narrowing of things that bring you pleasure. And when you think about what you just said there, Chris, it's like you begin to get narrow and narrow and narrow and narrow about what's going to give you that same dopamine hit. And over time, like we can visualize this with drug addicts. We can see, we can see the crackhead homeless on the street, or we can see the person that is struggling, through going through rehab with physical withdrawals. With porn, specifically a porn or sex addiction, there's a lot of times we can't physically see what that horrible negative outcome is going to be. I mean, we had a recent event here just last week in Atlanta, which I posted a video on my personal Facebook page, and then I shared it to the other social media platforms here today. This young man, he told us, what he was trying to do. He had a sex addiction, and he was trying to rid himself of the temptations by taking the people out in the massage parlors where he was going to purchase sex. And a young 21-year-old man, I mean, with 99.9% certainty, I can say that this young man was introduced to pornography at a very young age. So, no, to get to your question, Chris, you know, with the clients here, I mean, I've worked with guys that are in their 50s and have been hooked on this thing for 30 years, and we're enrolling a guy this coming week of 21 years old. One thing that is common and consistent with them is all of them struggle with just attention, attention deficit disorder, or just lack of focus. And I think where this stems from, we know the visual impact of pornography is what's recognized or known in the neuroscience world as a supernormal stimulus. So literally from first or second kind of looking at it, once or twice, it begins to activate the frontal part of your brain to a supernormal level. The only other thing in the world that's going to give you that same stimulus effect is going to be these hardcore drugs, cocaine, heroin, anything that's kind of, very, very dopaminergic. So with that, knowing that, okay, once, two times looking at it, you've kind of set and reestablished a new baseline for you. So your brain is now going to have to play catch up. And Dr. Trish Lee did a great job of explaining how this, prevents you from getting into flow states, how it really, pulls your attention. You literally will be sitting down trying to focus on something, but all you can think about are like the stimulus, the images kind of going off in your brain. So I would say one consistent theme that we're seeing from all of them is that, call it lack of focus, call it lack of attention. And then obviously, from more of a heart-centered perspective, I mean, sexual objectification. You can't walk down the street and look at a female without putting her, in a sexual position. You can't walk through the gym, without taking your eyes off of, the girl that's doing, she's just in there trying to do, glute bridges, but you're envisioning or you're putting her in a position. And that's, as much as, and you said something, Chris, at the beginning, and you said it to me earlier today too, and I've really thought about it all day long. It's like guys say that it's no big deal. And I would push back. I think that's what they want to say. I think that's what they want to believe. But then why are they doing it in secret? Why are they, shameful if somebody, finds out about it? And what this is going to cause is this is going to cause cognitive dissonance. So you're saying one thing out of your mouth, but internally, that what you're saying is not being truthful. So this is going to cause a whole nother layer of guilt and shame. So, every single one of the men that I come to, whether they're coming with a faith background or secular, there's no, no spiritual, component of their life. I mean, I've worked with atheists, I've worked with Christians, I've worked with Muslims. It doesn't matter. They all are dealing with guilt and shame, because even if they say it's okay, even if they say, oh, well, I'm not cheating, they still know that their behavior doesn't align morally with the person that they want to be. And that's a recipe for disaster if you don't, if you don't get it underhand, or if you don't get it under wraps soon. Because now you're literally causing this internal battle, inside of you, and only God knows where that can lead to. um so yeah, I think, so lack of focus, lack of attention, inability to complete things, objectification, guilt, shame. And then, yeah, I mean, we can talk to some of the, the physical side effects as well. I've been pretty open about my struggles with PIED, or porn induced erectile dysfunction. When you begin to train your brain that looking at people having sex is how you get an erection, then it's really hard to get an erection when you're in, the act of trying to have sex. Because once again, taking it from a, from a neuroscience perspective, watching sex and having sex are not the same things, and your brain is firing two different ways. So you begin to train your brain that, oh, watching this activity, objectification, is where an erection is tied to. You literally train your body. I mean, I've heard some graphic stories of men not even being able to get an erection without their hands on a laptop. I had a woman reach out to me earlier this week, um, pregnant. I mean, she's 6 months pregnant with her boyfriend. They're living together. And she's like, I've known about his porn addiction for a really long time, and I didn't say anything. I just kind of pushed it aside. And it wasn't until he was literally having to watch porn on his phone while making love to his fiance that she realized that it was a problem. And I've heard a lot of stories about this. I've heard stories as extreme of having to watch uh gay sex. I don't know if it's okay for me to say that here, Chris, but
That,
um,
that's fine.
literally
We're
having
pretty
having
raw.
to watch, yeah, having to watch gay sex while trying to have sex with a woman. And this speaks to that narrowing of things that bring you pleasure. So, we all started our journey with pornography, probably watching some pretty vanilla stuff. We got off when we were young. We're just seeing a naked woman. Over time, this can take you down a pretty extreme rabbit hole to where you're having to get into some dark fetishes, and some things that, if you were actually in the act of doing that, like, you probably would run away like a scared little child. Yet you've taught your brain that this is what it's supposed to get. So yeah, there's a lot there, as far as effects. I think what are guys doing that's really helping. First and foremost, it's getting to the point where you truly admit that it is holding you back. That it is preventing you from, using your guys' terminology, becoming, the greatest version of yourself. Or, if it's holding me back from launching that job, it's holding me back from actually treating my wife the way that I want to treat her. Or it's holding me back from being the father that I know I'm supposed to be for the little girl, that when she looks at me, the sparkle is in her eyes. And when I look back at her, in the back of my brain, I know that, I'm I'm false. I'm not the real man that I'm presenting there. So I think a lot of times it starts with just the admittance of, hey, it's a problem. Um, and then, and then we can kind of get into what some of the other steps are. But I think that's really the first step is the admittance that it is a problem, and then the decision that I'm going to do whatever it takes, because it is a decision. It is a process. If you truly are addicted, which if you try to quit and you can't, that's an addiction. And most people that actually try to do it on their own come to me and say, hey, I tried this for 6 days, and then I was, back in the same position where I was. So once you get to that point, we can kind of take it from there. But